Hello and welcome back to my channel. Hope you all are doing great. In this video I'm going to be drafting the princess bustier. So I went ahead and created a borderline, and on my center front I'm going to be marking my measurement, my chest line, which is 8 inches, my bust point 10 inches, my under bust 13 inches, and my waistline, which is 17 inches. So I'll just go ahead and roll out my lines horizontally, my chest line, my bust point, my under bust point, and my waistline. So on my shoulder line I will mark out my 7.5 inch, which is my shoulder, and I'll mark my point, and I'll connect from my shoulder to my chest line. I'll connect my lines like so, and also be coming down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope, and I'll just connect to my shoulder line. The next thing is to label my line for guidance. So this is my chest line, my bust point, my under bust, and my waistline. So from my center front I will be coming in by 4 inches for my dart intake. I'll mark out my point, and I'll do the same thing 4 inches on my under bust and also on my bust point 4 inches from my center front. I'll mark out my point, and then I'll go ahead and connect my point. So from my chest line to my shoulder slope I will measure my line, divide by 2, mark my point, come in by half an inch, mark another point, and then on my chest line I will measure my bust measurement. My bust is 36 divided by 4, which is 9 inches, and I'll connect to create my armhole. So I'll be measuring from my armhole to my shoulder slope and mark the midpoint. Then I'm going to use my French curve to connect from that midpoint to my bust point, just like this, to get a curve. So from this point here on my waistline I'll be measuring 1.5 inch, get the point, and then I'll connect that 1.5 inch to my under bust, just like this. And then on this side towards the center front I'll mark half an inch, and I'll also connect to my under bust. Just like this. So the next thing is to use my French curve to connect from my under bust to my bust point on both sides. Just make sure my French curve is set before connecting, and I'll connect to that point here, and also on this side I'll connect to my bust point, just like this. So from this point here I'll be marking 1.5 inches on the armhole. I'll mark my point and I'll extend by 1 inch. This extension helps to avoid shortage while sewing, and I'll just connect it to my armhole, just like this, and I'll be using my curve to connect from that extension to my bust point, just like this. So the next thing is to be marking my horizontal measurement, my waistline divided by 4 plus the 2 inches we removed here, which is 9 inches, and then 2 inches seam allowance, and I'll mark my point. Then on my chest line, I'll be marking my bust measurement divided by 4 plus the 1.5 inch we removed here and 2 inches seam allowance. Then I'll connect my points from my waistline to my chest line, just like this. So here I'll be using my French cuff to connect from that extension to my chest line to complete my armhole. So these lines are getting much. I'll just go ahead and strike them out so that you don't get confused when I'm going to cut. So I'll strike out these lines here, and I'll also shade this part. So from my neckline, I will be going in by 3.5 inches and coming down on my center front by 5 inches, and also square out 3.5 inches, and I'll go ahead and connect. You can actually alternate this to whichever neckline you want to create. I'm going with the basic round neckline, so I'll connect my points and also connect from the shoulder to meet this point here, and I'll use my curve to create my round neckline. So the next thing I'll be doing is to remove this tape here and go ahead to cut out my pattern piece. So I'm cutting through. So just watch carefully and see this shaded part, I'm cutting it out. And I'll also cut out my neckline. So for my side also, I will be cutting out this shaded part. So this is what we have after cutting your center front and your sides. So I'm just going to label it. This is my center front, and I'm cutting on fold, and this is my sides. So the bustier is as simple as this. That is that. Then for the back bodies, I'm also going to create a border line, which is going to serve as the shoulder line. I'll just quickly mark down. So the back bodice is going to carry the zip allowance, and I'm going to be using 1.5 inches. On my shoulder line, I'll mark my 1.5 inch for my zip allowance, and I'll just make points for 1.5 inches so that my line will be accurate. So I'll go ahead and connect my points just like this. And from my zip line, I'll also be marking my measurements. the same measurement I use on the front bodice. My chest line 8 inches, my bust point 10 inches, my under bust point 13 inches, and my length is 17 inches. So I'm just going to roll out my lines horizontally, my waistline, and I'll label my zip allowance. So the next thing I'll be doing is to mark out my shoulder line, which is 7.5 inches, and also roll out my horizontal lines, my chest line, my bust point, and also my under bust. So I'll square down my shoulder line to my chest line like so. So I'll just go ahead and label my line, my chest line, my bust point, my under bust, and my waistline. So the next thing I'll be doing is to mark out my dart intake, which is 4 inches. So on my bust point I'll be extending by 1 inch, and I'll go ahead and connect my points. So on my waistline I measured half inches on both sides and connected my dart leg, and I'm coming down here by 1 inch for my shoulder slope, and I'll connect to my shoulder line just like this. So on my chest line I'll be marking my measurement, my bust divided by 4 plus 2 inches seam allowance. I'll mark my point, and on my waistline I'll be taking my waist measurement divided by 4 plus the 1 inch I removed for that intake. I'll add it up plus 2 inches seam allowance, and I'll also mark my point. So the next thing is to connect my point from my chest line to my waistline, and I'll just blend here a little and also connect to my chest line. So the next thing I'll be doing, since it's the back bodice, the armhole is not that shallow, I'll just use my curve to connect to my shoulder slope. For my neckline also, I'll be going in by the same 3.5 inches and come down by 2 inches, since I don't want the neck to be that deep. I'll roll out my line like so and also square up. Then I'm just going to use my curve to connect. The neckline here can also differ to whichever size or style you want to create. You can actually alter it. So this is what I'm going to be using, and I'm striking out these lines, which is not usable again. So I'll just go ahead and cut out my patterns. So I'm done cutting my pattern, and this is what the back bodice looks like, and I'll just go ahead and label it with the number of pieces I'm cutting. So for the back I'm cutting 2 pieces since it's not on fold. So this is both my front and back bodice. You can see everything is all set. And when I place it to the back bodice, it aligns. So this is basically it for my princess bustier. In my next video, I will be cutting and sewing these pattern pieces on fabric. If you like this video, please give this a thumbs up and subscribe. See you in my next video. Bye.